Welcome to Ole Walls House. It's me. It's your man. It's your main man. It's Ole Walls, and I'm back with you for episode 136 of Ole Walls House. Just want to start off by saying thank you to everybody. So I appreciate you guys all. Thanks for the watches. Thanks for the listens. Thank you. Before we get started, you know the deal. Got to do a little housekeeping. If you guys could, please rate, review, comment, share, and subscribe. Got a fun show coming today. We have part 2 of our 4-part series with MJ previewing the NFL. We head south to the NFC and AFC South this week. Talk about all the happenings in those two conferences. I'll talk a little baseball, some Olympics, my passing thoughts. So we got a fun show. You can still get Liquid IV 20% off with promo code OWH, so don't miss out if you're a Liquid IV user. Without any further ado, let's just get right into the show. He's back for part 2, ladies and gentlemen. MJ is here. Part 2 of the 4-part season NFL season preview. We head south, deep south. We have the AFC and the NFC South coming here. MJ, welcome back again this week. How you doing, buddy?
It is great to be here. I do want to shout out happy anniversary to Ole Walls and the roommate a couple days ago now, but congratulations on another year, and I'm super excited to talk some football.
Yeah, the Souths are interesting divisions. The NFC South last year won by the Buccaneers at 8-9. So, and under 500. Did they finish 9-8? I'm sorry.
I believe so.
I thought I had just read. Let me double.
I think they were over 500. I think. Don't quote me.
They were 8-9 the previous year, I believe.
Okay.
All right. So either way, pretty close. Pretty close to right around 500. So it's an interesting division. So let's just start with the NFC South. And just, kind of your overall thoughts and what you might expect to see before we kind of dive in a little more team by team.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound too negative, especially just getting on and we're having fun with this and trying to predict things, and I think this division's really bad. I know last time we talked about the AFC West kind of being maybe a little predictable with the Chiefs and everything we talked about. The Broncos probably being predictably bad and, all these different things. But this feels like one of these divisions still. And I feel like we've been kind of saying it for the last couple of years where it's like these teams just are all kind of clumped together. And Carolina kind of sticks out. You're like, well, it's a 3-team really race, but it's not like any of those teams have really shown that they're going to be powerhouses. So I think this is a super interesting division just because you have a lot of stuff going in Atlanta. You have New Orleans and Tampa Bay who kind of just stayed status quo.
Yep.
And then you have Carolina kind of in a rebuild with some really, really nice pieces on the roster. And roster-wise, it's probably one of the youngest and most talented, I think, in some spots. That especially in this division, you just don't have to be that talented. So even something like Carolina, if Bryce Young plays well, it could all be kind of really sloppy and nasty football, but somebody's got to win it. Somebody's going to win the division.
Yeah, I thought Bryce Young last year was a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah.
I thought I had higher hopes for him, judging by the fact that I picked him for fantasy in a couple of different leagues, and that one really came back to bite me in the ass. But I thought I thought he would be better. Obviously, he was the number 1 pick. It didn't pan out for him, but if he can find it at all, like you said, you don't have to be great to win this division.
No, and a lot of eyes are on Atlanta just because of the Kirk Cousins, and you got the Michael Penix Jr. stuff. But just staying in Carolina, I think they won 2 games last year, which is god awful. He gets 17 of them. 2's not very many.
You almost win 2 by accident.
But if you look at the guys they brought in, they drafted Jonathan Brooks in the draft, the running back, and their running back room's not bad. They got Hubbard to kind of lead the way. They got Brooks in the draft, and Miles Sanders is still there. Like their running back room's at least some sort of depth. Their wide receiver room, they have Jonathan Mingo. They drafted the Xavier Legette kid from, I believe, South Carolina in the draft. Like they have Adam Thielen still, who Bryce Young kind of had a good rapport with. The tight end position's kind of average. Their offensive line, I think, has gotten a little bit better.
They signed that guy from the Seahawks.
Robert Hunt, I think, right?
He was the Dolphin. He's the Damian Lewis from the Seahawks and Robert Hunt from the Dolphins.
Yep.
Which was very necessary because as I'm reading this article here, they gave up 62 sacks last year. So definitely needed some help on the line, and they went out and addressed that.
Yeah, and they added some. They got Jadeveon Clowney is there now. Like, I know they lose Brian Burns to the Giants and everything, but they're in like a nice little rebuild, and even defensively, you got J.C. Horn in the secondary, and you have some like decent pieces. It just really comes back to Bryce Young looks so bad. It at times that his decision making and he held on to the ball for too long. You have to see the next step. So I have them winning 5 games, which I believe they have a new coach this year.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name. So you just never know. Like, look what the Texans did last year with DeMeco Ryans coming in and going from a 3-4 win team to 10.
Is that Dave Canales?
Yeah.
Is that the guy? I couldn't think of it either.
So you never know, and maybe Bryce Young takes a really big step. But I think they finished last in this division still. But I do kind of like the direction that they're going. It's just anytime, it's like the Packers. Like anytime you have a young nucleus team and your kind of soft rebuild is looking good, like you just got to plop a competent quarterback in there and you're off to the races. Like yeah.
And someone always goes worst to first in a division.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to happen with them. I don't think the division's so weird that anything could happen. But I still see the other teams. Tampa Bay, if Baker has a decent year again, and he had probably one of his best years.
Yeah,
I think it was his best year statistically last year. If Derek Carr kind of finds a groove with the Saints, and who knows what we get with Kirk Cousins coming off Achilles surgery with the Falcons, but I don't think they're going worst to first. But it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if they did in this division.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is definitely, I feel like we said this 365 days ago. The NFC South, it was just going to be a muddy mess.
Yep,
and somebody was just going to survive it. And, it happened to be at Tampa Bay last year. And,
the standings last year, Tampa Bay 9-8, New Orleans Saints 9-8, Falcons 7-10. So it was those 3 teams were just kind of a jumbled mess, just kind of all kind of crawl into the finish line.
Yep.
What do you think about the Falcons? How do you feel about the Kirk Cousins pickup? They gave him a lot of money and then come right back and draft, Michael Penix. I know we talked about that a little bit back at the end when we talked the draft, but just where are you kind of falling on that right now?
Well, I mean, you just brought up the draft, and like, for people who are listening to stuff, like that was kind of one of my kind of disappointing drafts of the whole league. Like I kind of picked on Atlanta a little bit. And not necessarily, I understand the process of the Michael Penix Jr. pick. I really do. Especially and I feel like people forget Kirk Cousins is coming off a pretty serious injury. Like, and sometimes that takes time. So if he's a little slow or gets re-injured, like you went and got your guy. And I believe wholeheartedly in that in the draft. But they just didn't.
Even if Kirk Cousins does come back in his gangbusters, he's 36 years old, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you expecting out of him? 2-3 years at the most?
Yeah.
So, I'd have to imagine the thought process is get a couple good years out of Cousins if you can, and hopefully by that time Penix is ready,
Yep.
and you've got a couple more years of Penix on a rookie contract.
Yeah. And I think that's their thought process. And like, I like Kirk Cousins. I don't have a problem with him. It just, it feels like it's like win now. And then you kind of look at their roster and it's like, well, you got Kirk Cousins and Drake London. Like, is he a one? And I know he had a quarterback situation last year, and you got to kind of be like, well, now he's got somebody that can really sling it and make good decisions. So like, you give him this year, but like, is he a one? And then it's like Darnell Mooney's there now. Kyle Pitts has never shown up. Like,
no,
really.
He's never been what he was kind of advertised to be. So the thing they do have going for him is they have Bijan Robinson.
Yes,
and he was a stud last year. 1,463 yards from scrimmage. Second most among rookies in the NFL, only behind Puka Nacua. So he had a great year. Can they build on that? It seems like running backs in the NFL, it's one season is awesome, and then who knows? Like if you get 3 years out of a running back who really produces, it feels like you're out ahead of the curve. So it wouldn't be the most shocking thing if he took a step back. And it would in no way shock me if he was a stud again and improved on his performance last year, because he seems to have all the tools. But at the same time, the NFL is just so weird with running backs.
I do think he'll have a really good year, as long as if you take away all the risk, injuries and all that, like something major happens. But and I actually think Kyle Pitts could have a really good year with Kirk Cousins, as long as Cousins is healthy. I'm worried about a little bit of their defense. I mean, they have some pieces, but like the wide receiver room really worries me there just a little bit. And if Kyle Pitts doesn't really turn into what everybody has thought he could be, it's just not a very good room. So you can do whatever you want with Bijan, but you could sit there and say, like, is this just the New York Giants of the NFC South, where they have Saquon Barkley just doing all he can, and then you got Steve Slayton and whatever other wide receivers they were throwing out there, like Jalen Hyatt and just like whatever, like you kind of these you
the
want
fact
them to
that you
be
can't really name them kind of makes the whole point there.
Yeah, Darius Slayton, not Steve Slayton. Darius Slayton, I believe.
Yes,
but anyway,
Steve
like
Slayton.
it feels like they're right there. I think they're going to be a lot of people's picks to win the division. I do, because of their schedule. If you really dive into their schedule, it is pretty favorable, and that's why I have them finishing with 10 wins. And they just have a stretch of games where they're not playing teams that are very good. Like I think they were third place last year. Yeah, like you said. And so they're getting kind of that middle of the road teams. And I think that's going to benefit them, because they do have a lot of talent. And I think it could be a good year for them. Maybe make the wild card, maybe make the first round, and that might be a ceiling for them.
Yep. One last thing on these guys. Kirk Cousins in weeks 1 to 8 before he went down with the Achilles injury last year. Passing touchdowns, 18. Tied for first in the NFL. Pass yards, 2,331. Second in the NFL. Completion percentage, 70%. Fifth in the NFL. So he was having a really nice year before that happened. So if he can find that form at all, and can kind of get some stuff out of Drake London and Kyle Pitts, this team, I have no problem with 10 wins, and I think they could very easily win the division. I'm going to go to the Saints next, because I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here. The Saints are going to be bad.
Okay.
They kind of flipped the script late last year. They went 4-1 over their final 5 games. Derek Carr did play better, much better in those final 5 games. He threw for 14 touchdowns. Only 2 interceptions, 74% completion. His passer rating was an 89 in the first 12 and an 118 over the last 5. That said, I don't think they're going to be very good this year. I think Derek Carr is kind of on the back end of his career, and I thought he was a very serviceable quarterback for most of his career. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it. I've just got a feeling. They beat a couple of teams late that year. Some of their last wins were over the Panthers, over the Giants. They beat the Rams late, who were kind of surging themselves, but were really banged up. And then they beat in their final game of the year. They beat the Atlanta Falcons, and it was, I think everyone and their brother knew that Arthur Smith was about to get fired. So I think they there was kind of this. Oh yeah, they really turned it around late, and I don't think when you look at it and kind of go over it with a magnifying glass that it holds up as much as you would think. So I'm going out on the limb. They will not be good. They're going to win under 7 games. I'm thinking 6-ish. But I'm interested to see what you think.
Yeah. So I'm kind of right there with you. So this was, again, like I kind of mentioned when I was talking about the whole division together, like it just doesn't feel like they've really done much. Like they're kind of the same team. Like they brought in Willie Gay Jr. from the Chiefs. Kool-Aid McKinstry or whatever his name is. He's there now.
Kool-Aid McKinstry, yep.
And they have Chase Young, I believe. So, like,
correct.
There's some. I think this is the best defense in the division. Like, I don't think the Buccaneers' defense is better. I don't think Atlanta's is better. I don't think Carolina's is better. I think this is overall, even though some pieces are kind of aging. So that means something, I think, in some games, especially like when teams are having to go to New Orleans and play, and that place is rocking. So I have them at 7 wins. So what you were kind of saying was kind of perfect. So they stepped back a little bit. Would it be surprising if they won 9 games again? No. But I lean towards more of what you were saying with kind of some regression here. I
will say, even if I do get proved wrong and they win more than 6 or 7 games, I think Derek Carr is like a 9-win quarterback. 10 is like kind of his ceiling to me, especially at this point in his career.
Yeah.
So, hey, maybe they really shock me. I doubt it, but I just don't think there's that much upside with the team. Maybe the floor isn't as low as I'm kind of making it out to be, but I just don't see the upside.
I 100% agree. Like, and I don't always want to agree with you because there's.
I know. I thought I was getting out there and I was going to get out in front of you, and you'd be like, "Oh man, I had them for 8 or 9 wins."
No, but I think you're right. Like, I think you've nailed it. I think they have some pieces. Like Chris Olave is really good. Like Kamara's still there. They got the Kendre Miller kid who they tried to push in a little bit, especially early in the year when Kamara, I think, was hurt or suspended or whatever he was doing. I do think they have some pieces, and their defense is going to keep them in some games. But I don't see them more than 500. Like, I don't see them a 9-10 win team. Like, it feels very the same. And I don't always like when teams are just going to put it in park for a couple of years.
It feels like if you're going to be in the NFL and you're going to come back with the same setup, you've better have won your division and been competitive in the playoffs.
Yes.
Because otherwise it just feels like you're going backwards. And maybe that's why I kind of felt that way, is that I just didn't feel like they really did much. So I don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, we got one more team.
We do. I mean, the defending champs.
Let me ask you a question real quick, though. Like, if you had $100 to bet on a division winner here, it'd be scary, right?
Can I just spread it around and put $25 on each team?
That's not a bad idea. Actually.
What would the odds? I wonder what the division winning odds are.
I mean, it has to be, because of public perception, it has to be Atlanta.
I would have to think.
And then it has to be either Bucks or Saints next. It has to be.
Yeah, Atlanta's minus 120, Bucks plus 320, Saints plus 340, Panthers plus 1100.
Yeah.
So maybe I just take my $100 and I split it between the Bucs and the Saints and hope, just hope Atlanta doesn't win. And I don't think the Panthers can. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get
But
a nice little payoff.
It just tells you like how bundled up it feels.
Yeah.
Like you're just like, I don't know. It's not like, oh yeah, I could go with the Chiefs here, or I could go with like such and such there. Like this is going to be a messy division again.
Correct. Yes, let's talk to defending champs. The Baker Mayfield-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We mentioned that Baker, I think I mentioned just a second ago, Baker had his best statistical year. This is also going to be Baker's first time returning to a team since the 2021 season, after in his last year with the Cleveland Browns, and he was with the Panthers and the Rams in 2022, and then the Bucs last year. So can he build on, again, his career best season and take a 9-8 Buccaneers team and maybe turn them into a 10-7 team to win this division?
So that's a great question. I do like some of their defensive pieces. I love Winfield Jr. I think he's got a lot of talent. He doesn't always show up sometimes, but the Cansey kid from Pittsburgh, I believe it was, the defensive tackle they drafted, I think could really help him. Vita Vea's there. Levante David's there. And they lost, I think, Devin White to the Eagles.
They lost their offensive coordinator. Their offensive coordinator, Dave Canales, is now the Panthers head coach.
Yeah.
So
I don't love Todd Bowles. As just I just think he's got a lot of talent on his team, and I think that's what kind of took him there. Love Mike Evans. I think Chris Godwin could probably be a top 3 or 4 number 2 in the league, like a number 2 wide receiver. Like when he's healthy, like it's a big difference. This is probably my biggest like kind of wow prediction for the division. I think they're going to suck.
Ooh.
I think Baker Mayfield, that was it.
That was the high water mark?
I do. And I like Baker. And like, we talk in our group chats a lot and stuff. And I think we all kind of like his like swagger and at least a little bit. Like we kind of like
it's kind of cool that like he got beat. He came out hot, got beat up, like clawed his way back.
Yeah.
And like kind of just put his head down and like kept going when it would to be a number 1 quarterback, a number 1 drafted quarter, or he wasn't drafted number 1. He was yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I forget that year. They drafted Denzel Ward for. Yeah, but to like it'd be very easy for a guy like that in his situation to be like, I'm out. I'm done. Like I've gotten a lot of money. I'm not gonna just go around and be the rat race and go to Carolina and go to LA in the middle of the year and then try and do it in Tampa Bay. So props to him for that. I'm gonna disagree with you here, MJ. I think Baker has another solid year. I don't know that it'll be as good as this past one, but I think it'll be good enough for them to win 9-ish games again and have a chance at this division.
Yeah, I have them with 6 wins. I'm predicting a big drop off here. I don't know why, but when I was looking at the schedule and I think Baker Mayfield kind of has reached kind of where he's going to be at. And I think a 9-win team, unless he's got some elite defense behind him or something like that, I think that's kind of his ceiling. He's kind of
the defense was pretty good last year. That they were allowing 19 points per game, so they were solid. Antoine Winfield Jr. had a great year last year, so I wouldn't rule it out. This would be their 4th consecutive division win if they win again this year, which is kind of crazy. I mean, granted, the GOAT was there for a couple of those, but
very true. Yeah. I mean, and you can see like that team isn't much different than what it was when Tom Brady was there.
I'm saying all these things about the teams. If you're not making changes, you're kind of going backwards, and I just kind of flip on all that with the Broncos here.
So I mean, I think 6-7 wins is it for him, and I don't want to be harsh on Baker because I do like him, but He kind of feels like, and I know they went to the same school, but he kind of feels Kyler Murray-ish, where I just don't know. I just haven't seen enough and enough consistency. I like the pieces around him, and I think that's why he's had a lot of success. It was the first time in his career where it was actually like, this is your team, and we have a ton of talent around you, lots of experience, and he had some success, and he still really wasn't great.
Yeah.
So
does Mike Evans get over 1,000 yards again this year?
Yeah.
Does he keep the streak going?
Yeah, come on. He has to. He has to. I mean, he's going to get his. So they'll be tough. They'll be a tough out for a lot of teams. And maybe I'll be completely wrong on this, like I've been wrong in a couple other situations. But I got them third at 6-11, behind the Saints at 7-10, and the Falcons at 10-7, and Carolina kind of bringing up the caboose there.
Yep. That sounds good. Sounds like we covered the NFC South. Let's head over to the AFC South. We have the Texans, who are the defending division champs, 10-7 last year. Jags and Colts both finished 9-8. Titans at 6-11. This was the Souths were very similar last year, and we felt like they were kind of like, eh.
Yep.
I think the AFC South has a little bit different feel to it this year. Obviously, let's just start at the top. The Texans are 10-7 last year. It felt like they really figured something out. CJ Stroud is a stud in the making, it appears. Can the Jags kind of find their form again and give them a run for their money in this division? I think it's a two-horse race. I don't think I know the Colts were right there last year, but it feels like it's a Texans and Jags are just a little better than the other two teams in the division.
Yeah, I agree. So just before I get to the Texans thing, I don't know if I love the way the Jags have handled really like free agency or the draft as much. I love Brian Thomas Jr. that they drafted him, but we'll kind of get to them in a minute. I think the Texans are going to be really good. I got to kind of pat myself on the back a little bit with my CJ Stroud take, before the draft when, we were talking about that. Like I had said in that draft preview that like if I was Carolina, like I would have taken him over Bryce Young. But, a lot of, what do I know? But he was my guy. Like I thought he was going to be pretty good. I will say I think the hype around him is a little much though. So, and when I say that, like I love his decision making. I think he threw 23 touchdowns and 5 interceptions or something like that last year. But he only threw over 2 touchdowns one time in the whole season. He only had one touchdown or 2 touchdowns in every game, except for one, and that was against the Tampa Bay Bucs. He had 5.
Yeah.
So you really look at that and you're like if you dive into that a little bit, like the team around him really played better. And the job DeMeco Ryans did last year with that team tells me more than what CJ Stroud did. So my analysis of like their team and the pieces they brought in, I trust DeMeco Ryans right now a little bit more than I do CJ Stroud because I think that second year regression sometimes we see in young quarterbacks, it can happen. So like, but I think they've put pieces around him. I think they've tried to help the defense a little bit. They brought in Diggs, which some people love and some people don't.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, right?
Yeah. So I have them winning 11 games, and like looking at their schedule, it's a first place schedule, but it's not. They got some home games where I think it could be a little 50-50. I love their running back spot a little bit more than I did last year with Mixon.
I'm sorry, who?
Mixon.
Okay, thank you.
Joe Mixon. Shout out, Bill. And like, the offensive line has gotten a little bit of help. I love what they're doing with their defensive line. They brought in Daniil Hunter from Minnesota. Aziz Al-Shari or whatever his name was from the Titans.
I'm not trying to say it.
So Danico Autry, I think, is there now too, like for
Yes,
some
on
defensive
the
tackle
edge.
help. So I really like this team. I love Tank Dell. He was one of my kind of hopeful Cowboys picks late in that draft.
When you mentioned takedown, I want to ask you something. We mentioned that Stephon Diggs coming in. Your feelings could be any which way about him. There are a couple other like players playing wideout for this team. Tank Dell, Nico Collins, like those guys are going to get a lot of balls.
Yep.
Like Stephon Diggs, I think is probably still the number one. But like, I don't think it's just like we're just feeding Stephon Diggs the ball. Like it seems like it's we're going to spread it around. And how does that work?
I mean, I think. Oh, go ahead.
It seems like Stephon Diggs is always good the first year or two, as long as things kind of are going in his direction. But he's done this a couple times where he kind of gets pissy and just like wants out, and has gotten his way when he's wanted it. So it's like, does that kind of just build like an attitude and a thought process around him? It worries me a little bit for this team, like in thinking that they're going to be a good team and a team I would pick to win the division. Like, it doesn't take much to all of a sudden torpedo your season and everything looks wrong. And then, December comes and there's the article, dysfunction in, Texans locker room. It's like, that explains it all.
Yeah.
So it's a little worrisome if you ask me.
Some of it is the year one thing for me. Like, it's like he's going there with expectations of winning a lot of football games in like really the first year or two. And he's an older receiver. I believe he's 30, right? Or something.
Yes,
29,
I think
something.
so.
So like, it could go either way. It's like, does he really think he can be elite for the next 5 years? Yeah.
30.
Or is he like, I'm not the one here. Nico Collins is the one. They extended him. I'm gonna be 2. Tank Dell is gonna get his, and people forget Dalton Schultz is gonna be there for the next 3 years as well.
That's right.
Like this is a good receiving core that CJ Stroud has with good running back, decent offensive line. Like there's some really nice pieces in Houston, and I even said in my notes when I was kind of prepping for this week, like. They're the bright star of Texas right now.
Ooh,
to me,
how does that make you feel, man?
It hurts me.
It hurts you. Just one thing on the Stephon Diggs stuff. When I searched him to find out his age, like Google pops up like the top stories for you.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna read a couple here. Texans Wire. Texans head coach D'Amico Ryans praises wide receiver Stephon Diggs' attitude in training camp. That's from 23 hours ago. 2 days ago, Insider reveals how Stephon Diggs is different with Texans. From Yard Barker. They're very interesting outlets that these are coming from. Sports Illustrated. Animated Stephon Diggs shows what Bills don't miss in Texans debut. Athlon Sports from 5 days ago. Is traded Buffalo Bills ex Stephon Diggs already a problem for Texans? New York Times. 2 days ago, the Houston Texans are loving life with Stephon Diggs. 1 day ago, another from Athlon Sports. Bills get last laugh after new Stephon Diggs video emerges. So a very mixed bag in the reports already. So I thought that wasn't going to happen for a couple weeks into the season at least, but it's already out there in the atmosphere.
It's amazing what like the media will try to get just for clicks. It's just like, because everything that you said was like Texans feel like it's been really, really good. And then, but everybody else, like in the media, is like, we got to make this a story. Like we gotta entice people.
It's the easy story. Like it's easy for us to bring up here. It's easy for some sports writer to be like, what's going on in the NFL? Oh, Texans look good. Everything. Oh, Stephon Diggs problem in training camp? Question mark.
Maybe it's a Texas thing. Maybe people just they just got to find something. I don't know.
Oh gosh. Anything else for the Texans or?
No, I don't. I think that covers it, man. I think they could be really good, and I think their floor this year would be like 8, and I think a ceiling is somewhere around 10 or 11. I think they can. I think they can do it because CJ Stroud still doesn't need to just take this huge leap because the team around him is really solid. Like, if he just plays like he did last year, they could easily win 10, 11 games.
Let's go from best in the division to worst in the division last year. Let's swing to the Tennessee Titans. What do we expect from them this year? They were 6-11 last year. Didn't really show a ton of great stuff, but had a couple of interesting wins. I believe they beat Miami last year.
Yep.
I think they beat Seattle as well. So a couple of good wins in there. But also got the shit kicked out of them by Houston a couple times, I think. Cleveland beat the shit out of them one game. So they switched to Will Levis last year, about halfway through the season. And, they brought in Calvin Ridley. What are we expecting here? Like, are they going to make the move up? They're at least committed to Will Levis by all reports.
Yeah. I mean, I have them very similar to last year. And like, that's not, I don't know if that's a dig at Will Levis, but I think it's the year of Will Levis. Like, this is the year where we get to be like, all right, you had your little time to sit and learn, and then we threw you to the wolves. And like, we were just like, all right, buddy, go ahead. Like, this is the year we get to really find out like what Will Levis is and see if they can keep building. Like, Tennessee is kind of an underrated team when it comes to what they've done the last like decade, really. Like, they've always been well coached. Like, they've always been pretty solid defensively. They've, it helps when you have Derrick Henry that you can hand it off to 25, 30 times. And obviously
he's obviously gone.
Yeah. So like, but they're kind of like one of those middle road teams where you're like, you know what? They're going to find ways to win a couple games that they probably shouldn't.
Yep.
So it's just, do they take care of the ones that they're maybe slight favorites in or just a slight underdog in? And then maybe if they pull off an upset or something. But I actually have them, because of somewhat of the schedule and just as kind of like a little bit of bold prediction in me, I have them winning 7 games this year.
Okay. I don't think they get to 7.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I think that's where I lean. Like, it's bold, but Hopkins is getting up there. Calvin Ridley is kind of, he shows flashes of greatness.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Tyler Boyd signing. Like, I think that's a really solid signing for them as kind of their 2 or 3. Tony Pollard's there now. Tajay Spears is in the backfield. They have a running game that they can really kind of lean into sometimes with kind of lightning kind of backfield.
Yeah. They kind of have a tough schedule as I'm kind of looking at it here. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all right.
But I mean, who knows what you get out of the Jets? But they play the Jets, the Packers, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Chargers are another one. Obviously, the Texans twice, the Jags twice, and then they also have the Bengals on the schedule too. So there's some tough games out there for them. So I'm not feeling 7, MJ. I'm feeling 6, 5 or 6, maybe even 5.
Yeah, I could see them being the worst team in the league.
Possibly.
Like,
very possible.
I really could. Especially if
we have no idea what we're getting with their new coach. What's his name here?
Brian Callahan there from the Bengals. Yeah. So I'm leaning into the roster isn't as bad as people feel it is. Like, the Titans kind of have like this notion of the outside people just being like, oh, that they suck. They're terrible. Like, they got L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, who's a stud. Amani Hooker's there. Jamal Adams, however you feel about him. Like, he's a little older and stuff. But they're solid in a lot of different areas. And the Titans are always known to, they're going to beat the Jags once. You just watch.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to.
It wouldn't surprise me if they beat the Texans once either.
Yeah.
Like, after I'm over here shitting on them. Like,
yeah. And, like, you never know. Like, even the Packers game, and I know you're a Packers fan, but you never know.
The Packers are well within their rights to dump a stupid one to them.
Yeah. So, like, there's
going to be those surprises. Chairs. Those chairs in Williamsport are going to need to be on the lookout if that happens.
Yes. You're damn right they are. But I still think they're last. Like I think like when I say 7-10, I think that's very bold, and that's like to me a ceiling. But I think they do finish last. I think I'm liking what the Titans are doing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's why I started this thing with it's the year of Will Levis. Like
Yep.
if he stays healthy and he's got these weapons and he takes a couple steps forward, I think that's 6 or 7 wins.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's talk about the Colts next. This is an interesting one. Anthony Richardson going to be coming back in and being the starter again. He was injured last year, so we don't really know well. He showed some flashes in the few games he played. I forget exactly how many he played, but what are we expecting here? They ended up going with Gardner Minshew for the rest of the year, and it wasn't terrible. Like they finished 9-8. They were close to getting in the playoffs, but Richardson's young. He's only 22 years old. He just turned 22 a couple months back. So, I mean, a young guy with all the potential in the world. What do we expect out of him? I think, that's going to kind of really determine the direction of this team.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, that's nothing, crazy there to say quarterback determines the direction. But
Yeah. And it's a theme that like you and I have talked about a lot. And I think like if like the listeners have like really kind of dove into my perspective on things, is I value the quarterback a lot. And like it's just because it's the quickest thing that can turn a franchise around. And it's also the quickest thing that can set you back 5 years.
Yep.
And when we talk about the East next week, like you'll hear it from me when it comes to some of those quarterbacks in that division as well. So I like this roster a lot, and I think this could be a really nice spot to put some money on an underdog to win a division. Like I think they could be a dark horse to kind of win this thing. I have them at 9-8, the same as last year, but I think it's going to look different. I think it's going to feel different. I wouldn't be surprised if they won 10 games. I love how they just re-signed their guys. Like the linebacker Franklin, they re-signed. Kenny Moore's staying there. Michael Pittman got extended. Like they like their young pieces, and I think they really believe in Richardson. I think Jonathan Taylor could have a really good year.
I think they made two nice draft picks.
Yeah.
In Latu,
Yep.
and then the offensive lineman Matt. Where is it? Matt
Goncalves. Yeah. Yep. From Pittsburgh, and like they needed secondary help last year. Like that was the one thing I'll say. And they drafted some guys late in the draft this year, which you hope you find one diamond in the rough there that really helps you. But again, going back to Richardson, if he can get some stops from his defense and he can throw the ball a little bit more effectively, and I'm not saying he doesn't have to run. I think that's what makes him special. He just needs to keep those wow moments that he has and everybody's fallen in love with, but he also needs to kind of slow it down a little bit once in a while. Check it down, throw it out of bounds, slide a little bit, and I'm hopeful that some of this is a wake up call, but you also don't want him to go into a shell either. So a lot depends on him. But I'm gonna throw it out there and say like I think they're gonna finish second in this division.
Ooh, ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's go to the Jags then.
Yep.
I think this is one of the most curious cases in the NFL, this team.
Yes.
And I don't know what we're going to get from him. Is Trevor Lawrence a top-tier quarterback? Is he not? Is he just kind of a Derek Carr type quarterback? Is he going to progress as the years go? Did we see the best of him? Those thoughts just kind of roll through my mind, and I'm very interested to hear what you think. They lost Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
They did grab Eric Armstead. So I'm just this team really, really interests me.
So, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier. Maybe I've just thought about it so much this week, but they were 8-3 last year.
Yeah.
They were 8-3 and finished 9-8. Like, that's not winning
bad.
football. And that to me, and I've said this to you before, when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, when it comes to Justin Herbert, when it comes to a lot of these quarterbacks that are kind of like they're crowned like this thing that's just going to be great, and we almost give them way more passes than we do to the majority of quarterbacks, especially in some spots. Like I'll say in Dallas, in even Philadelphia, New York, like those teams. I know I just picked three NFC East teams, but those teams, like, they'll throw their quarterback to the wolves after one bad start. And Trevor Lawrence just kind of gets this like little pass. Justin Herbert gets this pass. I don't like Trevor Lawrence is an unbelievable talent, but he hasn't shown me the consistency to be like, I believe in this guy to get this team over the hump.
Yeah.
Like I just I'm to the point with Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville. Like you just got to show me. Like it's time now. You've gotten your second contract. They're telling you this is your team. And I know they haven't had the best rosters around them and stuff, but Blake Bortles took this team to an NFC championship. And I'm not saying it's the same. I'm not saying it's the same team because that was many years ago now. But like Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be the guy. I have them finishing 8-9.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, if you just look at everything statistically, Trevor Lawrence, year to year, from 22 to 23, across the board, it's very, very similar. He actually ended up playing 16 games in 2023, not the full 17, but threw for almost the exact same amount of yardage, down 100 yards year to year. His completion percentage was down 0.7 points, but he threw 14 interceptions compared to 8 the previous year. So some crucial decision-making was maybe lacking, and he took 8 more sacks. So it wasn't like this case of he was so much worse, but it felt like he was worse in the spots where it mattered. And like you said, they fucking choked to end the year. They got their asses kicked by the 49ers, and then it was like almost everything came undone. They won the next week and the week after. But then it was from December on. They lost to the Bengals, who Burrow was gone by that point. They lost to the Browns. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Bucs. They got by the Panthers and then lost to the Titans in the last game of the year. And I believe if they had won that game against the Titans, they would have been in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right, yeah.
So just an all-out, all-time epic collapse. And I wonder, how do you come back from that as a team? Like, how do you bounce back from that? Because that's a thing that, like, that can infect, like, your mindset and be like, holy shit, we really gagged one away to end the year.
I think what they did was smart. And, like, maybe me trying to play the other side of the fence and trying to maybe put a positive twist in, they brought in a lot of other pieces. Like, they brought in Mitch Morse from Buffalo, the center, which they needed some offensive line help. Ronald Darby's there in the secondary, which isn't anything to write to mama about. Darnell Savage is there. Eric Armstead, the defensive tackle from the Niners. That's a nice pickup for them. They brought in Gabe Davis. They still have Christian Kirk. I love the Brian Thomas Jr. pick from LSU in the draft, the wide receiver.
Yep.
Like, he has talent. Like, enough, but I'm like, enough's enough, man. You've had talent before. You have. Like, whether you were young and you had some talent, so you're a little inexperienced, or, maybe your wide receiver core and running back situation wasn't the best, but, like, you're supposed to lift those guys. If you're this Trevor Lawrence that everyone talks about, stop fumbling the ball. Stop holding on to it forever. Stop throwing crucial interceptions. Stop choking away games when you were leading at halftime. Like, So to me, it's time to nut up or shut up for Trevor Lawrence. So I'm on the side of him just being kind of average again, and maybe slightly above average in some games. You're like, there it is, and then sometimes it's like, what is that? Like he
Yeah,
looks
and like you
like
said, he got
Andy
his
Dalton.
money. He got paid. Like
Yeah,
you got to do it now.
yeah,
And they went out of their way to get this done early before the fourth year started. So there was no discussion about it throughout the year. So hey, maybe that's a positive, but
yeah,
it's time to put up or shut up for him. I think
yeah.
is the main takeaway. So yeah.
Oh,
Anything
yeah.
else on the AFC South, MJ? Or
No, like I said, I think the Colts could. I think Colts are going to be the dark horse for a lot of people to pick. So it was kind of a meh. I didn't love picking it. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jags could win this division. It wouldn't surprise me if the Colts do. It wouldn't surprise me if the Texans do. It would really surprise me if the Titans do. But
yeah,
like, I think these are two really competitive divisions that we talked about today.
I think it's
In
great
a,
that
a
that
lot
they
of
go
different ways.
together.
Yeah, like you just said, like it was perfect that they went together because it's
Yeah.
like super competitive for a lot of good reasons with the AFC South and not so good reasons sometimes for the NFC South.
Perfect. Well, awesome, MJ. Another great breakdown by you. We head to the East next week. Your Dallas Cowboys will fall in that. Before we go, I know we made some predictions last week about House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
We whiffed pretty hard on those. What? Just
yeah,
any thoughts in general from your watching experience of last week and the whole season?
yeah. Listen, this was a really great season. Like I was locked into my TV
I
at
was too.
least 6 of the 8 episodes, and even the
Yes.
finale. I was like I
I
was
thought the
ready.
finale was a fantastic episode. They just
Mhm.
need one more episode to pay
Yeah,
off the season.
yeah. So I think when I kind of said I thought there'd be a couple deaths, but nothing major. I thought there'd be kind of a cliffhanger a little bit, but I didn't think it was going to be like. I didn't think the ground was just going to cave out from underneath everybody and not get anything. So like it was excellent. It's excellent show. Like I can't wait for the next one. So they've done their job. They're going to get their money and like all that stuff. But I was disappointed. I think as everybody was. I don't know.
Yeah, I read a couple things. There was something with the writer's strike that messed up doing like rewrites as they like get into the show, and then something with budget stuff that they ended up having to push a couple episodes out of the season. It went from 10 episodes down to 8, and that probably pushed like a major battle
Yeah.
from this season into next season. So that was kind of my thought, was like, man, I was really there were some things about this season, like Damon being stuck in Harrenhal all year, just
Yeah.
having different visions. Like we could have knocked that out in a couple of episodes
Yeah.
instead of like doing it for the whole season. But like if they just had one more episode this year to like pay off the whole season, and like even if the whole big battle, but like you actually got like everything like really coming together, like that last like 2 minute clip where they
Yep.
showed all the armies coming together. Like even if we had just one more episode where it was like all those guys out on the road being like, this is what we're gonna do, and then they all start to show up and find out that holy shit, there's a whole lot more going on than we actually knew. Like I think that would have been perfect. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of with you. I thought the show and the season's still good, still had me entertained, but yeah, it just needed a little bit.
Yeah, it was disappointing, but I love the show. I can't complain too
Yeah.
much. So
Well, all right, man. We will see you again next week. We will be
let's
doing
go.
the AFC and NFC East. Lots of fun, interesting teams to talk about there, including your Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, well, all right, MJ. Appreciate you, buddy, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, Walls.
The Cleveland Guardians were on a skid, ladies and gentlemen. That was a skid of all skids. They had lost 7 games in a row. When we last spoke, they had just dropped the back half of a 4-game set with the Orioles. They just dropped 2 games to them on Saturday and Sunday. after winning the first 2 games of that series when they'd been on a nice little run. I think it was a 5 or 6 game run there. Let's see, they beat the Phillies. So 1, 2, 3, 4, a little 5-game run. Then we follow with a 7-game losing skid. And finally break out of that, getting swept by the Diamondbacks, who've been hot, I believe. I think they've won something. At one point in the series, they'd won something like 21 of their last 30 games. So it kind of ran into a buzzsaw there. Dropped the first 2 to the Twins, and it was looking dicey. The lead in the Central was down to just 1.5. There was real worries. We were giving up runs. We weren't scoring runs. But alas, they righted the ship. A couple wins in the final 2 games over the Twins for the Guards. And the lead is in the Central is back up to 3.5. No longer have the best record in baseball. We now are a half game behind the Orioles and the Yankees for that. But only those 2 teams have a better record in baseball. Also tied with the Phillies and the Dodgers over in the National League. So it's going to be tight here coming down the last half of August and into September before we get to the playoffs. Hopefully we can hold on. So they're going to have to find their A game a little bit. No more bullshit. So Cleveland. What do we got this week? We got the Cubs. 500 franchise, nothing terrible there. And then we head to Milwaukee to play the Brewers, who are a league leader themselves, and they've been playing good ball of late. They've won 6 of their last 10, and they have a 7.5 game lead over the Cardinals in their division. So not the easiest slate here with a couple of NL Central teams. Then after that Milwaukee stretch in the following week, head out to New York. So this is a tough stretch. There can't be any more 7-game losing streaks unless we're going to put together a bunch of big winning streaks. So it's going to have to be good stuff. Jose Ramirez stays hot. He had a home run over the weekend. He's still way up there in. He's up there. He's 3rd in the AL in home runs with 31 home runs. Still 2nd in the AL in runs batted in. If you go to the whole MLB for RBIs. Again, he's second. He's second to only Aaron Judge. He's 5th in overall home runs, so he's been playing some good ball still. He also is sneaking up there on the runs scored list. Josh Naylor also has a bunch of runs batted in. So if the production can stay there, Lane Thomas has been kind of up and down, but has shown some good stuff. Alex Cobb, I don't know if he's pitching here in just a bit. I think he might actually be tomorrow. How did his outing go? Was he one of the winners? Bybee got the win on Sunday. I think Alex was pitching. Was he Saturday? No, Gavin Williams. So Gavin Williams, if we can get some good stuff out of Gavin Williams, which he did, 6 innings, only allowed 4 hits and 1 run. That's what we're talking about. Cobb must have pitched one of the doubleheaders. Yeah, he got beat up pretty good. 4 innings, 9 hits, 5 runs, 4 of those earned, only 1 strikeout. So I think that was just his first big league start this year. So hopefully we can find some mojo there. But it's going to be a dash to the finish. It's not going to be able to coast on their way in. So hopefully next week we got some good mojo. We'll be a little more focused on baseball. Olympics are over, so all good stuff, hopefully, to report next week. Time for some passing thoughts. Going to have a lot of stuff rolled into passing thoughts. This will be the final segment here today, so just gonna roll everything into this, everything that's left over, which I think when I first did passing thoughts, it was kind of like I talked football and then I had passing thoughts. So kind of a throwback here. Let's talk a little golf just off the jump. The Wyndham Championship, Aaron Rai, your winner with a Sunday 64. I don't know that I watched a single shot of this tournament, but there are a couple of things to take note of. Max Greiserman, after a second round 60, and I believe that was on Saturday. Saturday was that round. Catapults himself up towards the lead and has a wild scorecard on Sunday. Well, a second round on Sunday. I think they played 2 on Sunday. He shoots a 69. He opens with a birdie at the first, a birdie at the third, bogeys the fourth, eagles the fifth, birdies the sixth, makes the turn in 4 under. The group chat I'm in, that's our fantasy golf group chat, was chirping about Max Geiserman finding out he was a real person and kind of coming back to earth. And after he made an eagle on 13, it didn't seem like that was going to happen. And then things got weird for him on the 14th. I believe he pumped a ball out of bounds. To unknown. 363 yards to unknown. I wonder if that went off the cart path just based on where that is on the shot tracker. Ends up making an 8. An 8! An 8! Ouchies. My guy bounces back with a birdie on the next hole on the par 5 15th. And then on 16th, I believe this is where, he 3-putted. Well, it was 4 putts. Back points! 4 putts for him, but 3 of those putts came from 3 feet 4 inches. Actually, 1 putt came from 3 feet 4 inches. The next putt was 3 feet 5 inches, and he missed that one as well. Makes a double bogey, effectively knock himself out of the tournament. And then Aaron Rice sneaks in to win. Again, I didn't watch any of this. I did see a couple of things. One of the things was that this tournament did not play at all on Thursday due to the hurricane. When they come back, they're just racing time to get this thing in. They get to Sunday. They have everybody finish except for one single person. A man by the name of Matt Kuchar. Matt Kuchar, who ends up finishing in a tie for 12th after shooting even par, decides to not finish the hole. The rest of his group does. Had he made birdie, he could have jumped up to a tie for 8th, I believe, which would have gotten him like another extra $112,000 or something like that. But my guy came back out Monday morning, the only person on the golf course, and made a par and moved on. So that was maybe the most interesting thing. Matt Kuchar, who's made some interesting choices in his life, such as trying to pay a caddy on a win, $2,500 or $5,000 when he won an event down in Mexico. I think he ended up getting bullied to, I don't remember. Then he bumped it to was he going to do 50? And then he might have eventually paid him the entire, typical 10%, which was like $130,000. So my guy won $1.3 million and was going to pay a guy $2,500 or $5,000 because that was what they agreed upon beforehand. So so that's the golf. The Olympics are over. We stand supreme. USA all the way, baby. Let's just look at it. Yeah. Yep. USA. America. Fuck yeah. We win the medal count. 126 medals picked up by United States of America athletes. 40 of those golds, which tops that list, tied with China. China also picks up 40 golds. It was neck and neck for us to tie that. The women's basketball, I believe, was the final gold medal we won. So we tied it in one of the last events. We also had 44 silvers. And for those of you doing math at home, that's correct. 42 of the bronze variety. Talking basketball in the Olympics, one of the crazy endings of any Olympic event I watched this year was the women's basketball gold medal game, the United States versus France. Just want to point out both our men's and women's team took out France in the finals. The French women were making a furious comeback late. They, fouls, make a three, fouls, make a shot, fouls, make a shot, and just chipped it down. So with under 10 seconds remaining, I don't remember exactly what I was doing, kind of a couple things at once. The French women come down and they hit a buzzer beater. No time remaining on the clock. The shot goes in. The problem, that foot was just on the line. Agonizing. You could see the look on the girl's face who made the shot when she realized it was a 2 and her foot was clearly on the line. You could just feel the life come out of her. I felt very bad for her for a second, and then I was like, we won. Just devastating. Devastating way to end. On the men's side, Steph Curry made one of the greatest shots I've ever seen to kind of ice that game. It's up there in the top, 20, 25 shots all time. I don't know where it falls. I did see it was ranked number 1 on Greeny's most memorable basketball shots ever on SportsCenter this morning, or whatever fucking show he has. I think that might be a little over-exaggeration. Also on that list were Christian Laettner's shot came in at 3. Jordan over Elo was 2. I think Ray Allen in the NBA Finals was 4. I can't remember what 5 was. Anyway, noticeably absent from the list I saw, Michael Jordan's final shot. I feel like that's one of the most memorable shots in basketball. Other Olympic stuff, while we're talking Olympics, breakdancing was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. It just the fact that the one dude is breakdancing, the other dude's like bebopping around, like, and they're kind of talking shit to each other and looking at each other. And the fact that breakdancing is an Olympic sport is wild. Also, you've got some of these. Oh, it doesn't tell me. It doesn't tell me what the thing is. There was a thing where you were able to see some of the ridiculous sports. Damn it. It's not working anymore. Shit. Oh, well. I was going to say, there's some ridiculous sports in the Olympics. The River Seine cleanup didn't really go great. People we're having some puking stuff. Top medal winners in the Olympics. Is that Leon Marchand from France? The swimmer was the top Olympic medal winner. He had 5 medals in these Olympics, tied with, oh gosh, I don't remember the first names. Tori Husky from the United States. She also had 5. Marchand had 4 golds, 1 bronze, 3 golds, 2 silvers for Husky. And then M. O'Callaghan with 3 golds, 1 bronze, 1 silver, also with 5. Simone Biles, and I believe her final Olympics, brings home 3 golds and a silver for 4 of her own. Some gymnastics. Gabby Thomas wins 3 golds for the United States. R. Smith for the United States, a swimmer, wins 5. A swimmer from Australia wins 5. Katie Ledecky, 4, 2 golds, a silver, and a bronze. See if I know anybody else on here. Gosh, the Olympics was fun, man. I really enjoyed watching the Olympics. You know, you kind of get like the swimming early, and then it shifts to track as the kind of the big ones. You have the basketball and volleyball kind of spaced out throughout. So that was fun. We only had to wait 3 years for it this year because the Tokyo Olympics were backed up to 21. So 4 more years till the Summer Olympics when they will be in Los Angeles. And there are a couple sports. We got flag football coming. Baseball and softball will be back. There are hints that Major League players may play. So that would be really cool. Some other things. Oh, I wrote down 10,000 meters. I said, that's 25 laps around the track. And I think I saw someone ran it in like 26 minutes or something stupid like that. Just absolutely ridiculous. Nick Foles has retired from the NFL. What a couple games he had in the postseason. That year they won the Super Bowl, and just the ultimate move, the Philly play. So just incredible. Anything else? Any other pictures I took? I mean, this picture, the Steph Curry picture of him making the shot as Wemby's kind of flying in. And then he's giving everybody the night, go to bed, go home. It's all over. What else do I got in here? Oh, Dwayne Wade. Bad announcer. Very bad announcer. And then just a couple of things here. I was on the road a little last week. Nothing new there. I've been on the road like every week for like the last 4 weeks. It'll be nice if I can get some home time, play a little golf, get ready for my club championship this weekend. But I had set up my laptop onto the TV so I could just watch Netflix and stuff. And so I was just laying in bed working the mouse, but the thing was on the left side, so I was working with my left hand. That's weird. Like, if you're a righty and you got to work a mouse left hand, how do left-handed people do it? Do they just put the mouse on the other side? They must, right? Finally, I'm all set on politicians calling each other weird. It started with the Democrats calling J.D. Vance weird, and then the Republicans have, like, flipped it and been like, oh, he's weird. Like, shut the fuck. Can you all of you just shut the fuck up and actually talk about something, like, that matters? I know you won't, because you all suck. I know you won't, but for the love of God, don't call people weird anymore. You guys, like, I don't know if they're like, oh, this is how people talk. We call people weird. They're the worst. They're all the worst. They suck. All right. I'm done. Let's go wrap this thing up. Closing time, everybody. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches and listens. Big thank you to MJ, as we're 2 weeks through our 4-week series here. MJ will be back next week. We will be doing the AFC and NFC East, so come check that out. So, again, big thank you to him. As always, a big thank you to producer Kevy. So, fun stuff. So that all week, so we can do all this fun stuff. He kind of started us out. Got more fun stuff next week. I got MJ's back. Playoffs and golf start, so we have some more interesting golf. Cleveland Gardner's got a tough stretch coming up. God knows what else is going to happen. So please come back, check it out next time. Till then, peace.